Chapter 471, The Crisis at the Airport. Tang Xiu's expression drastically changed as he grabbed Turtledove's collar and said in a heavy voice, "Are you sure time bombs have been planted in Shanghai Airport? You are not lying to me?" "I may dare to deceive anyone, but not him," replied Turtledove while glancing at Xingli. "Tell me the location of the bombs," said Tang Xiu, clenching his fist. "They were placed by Old Wolf, while I'm responsible to monitor the concert site." "I don't know their location," Turtledove answered as he shook his head. Tang Xiu took a deep breath, quickly looked at his watch and said, "How long does it take to get to the airport from here?" "It will take an hour or so to drive there," answered Turtledove. Tang Xiu took out his mobile and dialed Lu Chengxi's cell number. "Where are you now, Tang Xiu?" Lu Chengxi's voice came after the call connected. "Secretary Lu, let us forget where I am first. I just received news that the extremists' target tonight is not just Zhang Xinya's concert, but they also placed time bombs in Shanghai Airport. The remaining time to the explosions is only 20 minutes or so." At the backstage of the concert, Lu Chengxi suddenly contracted his pupils after hearing Tang Xiu's report. His heart thumped so fast it felt like a hurricane. Panicked, he hurriedly asked, "Is this information really accurate and reliable, Tang Xiu? What are the exact locations of the time bombs?" "The news is reliable. But I don't know where they have been laid," said Tang Xiu. In a deep and heavy voice, Lu Chengxi said, "I'll immediately contact the Shanghai Airport's authorities and make them search for their locations as fast as possible. Also, I'm going to send some people over there. I'm afraid it's too late. However, we must inform the airport. Furthermore, I've already left the New World Center since I needed to deal with something elsewhere. I'm quite near Shanghai Airport, so contact the authorities from the airport and make them cooperate with me when I get there." Recalling Tang Xiu's special abilities, Lu Chengxi was immediately pleasantly surprised. "Great, that would be great. I'll make sure to inform them." "Please do it, Tang Xiu." Tang Xiu ended the call and walked toward the outside. He then said to Xingli, who was following him, "You all go back to Jingmen Island. Do bear in mind that you must scatter into small groups and leave quietly. Don't take the trains, planes, or public transportation vehicles, for those will expose your identities easily." "Copy that." Xingli stopped following as he looked at the back of the departing Tang Xiu. He quickly returned to the room to inform the others, and quickly left. In the darkness of the night, Tang Xiu left the three-storied building. His figure was ghostly and extremely fast. Within just 2 minutes, he already arrived at the underground parking lot, and then drove away at a very fast speed. As of now, his driving skills were virtually matchless. With a reaction speed and eyesight that were many times stronger than ordinary people, his driving speed was practically neck-breaking. His Range Rover SUV was akin to a Mustang running wild on the wide road, with its speedometer pointing at 200 kilometers per hour. He even used his stellar reaction speed to directly cross several red lights. Time was against him, he knew this perfectly well. A travel that one usually used 1 hour, there were only 20 minutes for him to arrive at the airport. Hence, he must speed up his car to the extreme. He even planned to abandon the car once he bumped into a traffic jam. Though his present cultivation was very low, his speed was comparable to the Land Rover's speed limit if he was to push his it to the limit. At Shanghai Airport, the person with the highest position there was Chu Xianglong, the airport supervisor, who had just returned from Beijing. Beside him were 2 airport executives following him out of the cabin. As Chu Xianglong stepped down the ladder, he frowned deeply, because from more than 100 meters away, several executives of the airport were surrounded by a group of airport security and were rushing towards him. "Has something happened?" Chu Xianglong asked lightly to the 2 airport executives behind him. "We don't know." Both men shook their heads and looked similarly confused. Quickly, several top executives of the airport finally came before Chu Xianglong. One of them had beads of sweat streaming down his forehead as he quickly said, "Chief Chu, there's an accident." "What happened?" Chu Xianglong creased his brows and asked in a deep voice. "I just received a phone call from the Secretary of the Ministry of State Security. He informed us that there are time bombs in the airport. Please call this number, so you will know the specific details," said the person in charge. With a drastically changed expression, Chu Xianglong quickly dialed the number. After the other party answered it, he said, "I'm Chu Xianglong, may I ask who you are?" "I'm Lu Changxi." Half a minute later, Chu Xianglong ended the call. His expression had already turned solemn and immediately shouted, "Seal all the passages in the airport. Suspend all the planes about to take off and evacuate all tourists in the airport. Call the police force and the bomb disposal squad to immediately scour the airport for the time bombs. Additionally, inform all of our people that if a person named Mr. Tang Xiu arrives, take him in at once, and prepare everything he needs, whatever it is." "I've already arranged it, Chief Chu." "Then, repeat it again. If there really are time bombs in our airport and we are unable to find them within the remaining time, the damage we suffer will be massive. Hence, each and every one of you must go into action, hurry up." "Affirmative." At this time, a passenger plane from Beijing was currently landing at Shanghai Airport. It slowed down over the runway and quickly stopped at the pre-assigned apron. A few minutes later, a big-bellied and plump-faced Li Laoshan appeared at the cabin's door. He deeply frowned as he slowly stepped down the ladder. Behind him, there was a slim, well-dressed, and beautiful female secretary and 4 bodyguards in black suits. "The siren is on, boss," said a bodyguard, vigilantly observing the surroundings. "Let's ask about what happened," said Li Laoshan with a nod. "Roger that, boss," said the bodyguard respectfully. At this moment, a broadcasting voice reverberated in the airport sound system. "Attention, ladies and gentlemen. Please note that all routes at the airport are to be closed immediately because of security issues. All passengers are required to leave the airport at once." "Security and safety problem?" Li Laoshan's complexion changed. He was perfectly aware of the meaning of this type of broadcast. He had heard that similar situations had happened in several domestic airports. Most of them were issues related to an explosion. "It seems like a major event has happened." Mumbling to himself, Li Laoshan immediately shouted, "Let's leave through the VIP lane." On a road more than 10 kilometers from the airport, Tang Xiu's complexion turned extremely grim. What he had been worrying about finally happened, a traffic jam on the road. All the way here, he pushed his car's speed to the limit, even causing some light and serious accidents. There were also many traffic policemen blocking his advance and in hot pursuit of him. However, after he contacted Lu Changxi, they soon disappeared. There's nothing to do but abandon the car. While looking at the traffic jam in front of him, Tang Xiu quickly made a decision despite his impatience and anxiety. After he got out of the car, he quickly bolted toward the alley at the side of the road. Amidst the dim lights of the night, Tang Xiu was like the incarnation of the wandering god of the night. At this time, one wouldn't be able to see his figure flashing from the side even if they were to observe him with the naked eyes. Even if one were to focus their attention, they could only perceive a flashing shadow. It's about 10 kilometers from here to the airport, and the 20 minutes are up already. Tang Xiu was praying that the time for the time bomb to detonate could stretch. He firmly believed that as long as he could rush to the airport within a few minutes, he would be able to scour the entire airport. After all, nothing could hide from his observation once he covered the area with his spiritual sense. When he was only 2 kilometers away from the airport, his keen eyes saw many cars rushing out of the airport. A lot of people were even turning around and running out to the roadside while carrying their bags. It seems that the airport has taken precautions against this predicament. Tang Xiu avoided running on the road and kept accelerating. When he arrived near the airport, his figure finally appeared from the curtain of the night and quickly bolted toward the entrance. The airport has been sealed, and no one is allowed to enter. A dozen police officers looked at Tang Xiu with vigilant expressions, and one of them shouted at him. Knitting his brows, Tang Xiu said, "I'm Tang Xiu. I must go inside." Tang Xiu? The police officers' complexions changed. The police, who had just stopped Tang Xiu, quickly said, "Are you, Mr. Tang? We have received a notice that you can go in at once. Our airport leaders are." Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Tang Xiu immediately dashed inside. At the same time, he kept releasing his spiritual sense, which covered a radius of 200 to 300 meters. His face slightly changed when his figure appeared inside the airport lounge. 3 bombs, and 3 minutes and 15 seconds to the explosion time. Tang Xiu quickly glanced around and found that many police officers around were looking for the time bombs. He suddenly shouted at them, "There's a time bomb in this trash can. Assign someone to take it away. There's also one in there inside the fire hose, and another one in the pot on the left. What the hell are you dazing out for? Just get those time bombs faster. There are only 3 minutes left before they explode." All at once, dozens of airport police officers were rushing toward the 3 locations pointed by Tang Xiu. After they carefully removed the 3 black boxes, 2 bomb experts half-run into the airport lounge and quickly examined them. They finally determined that these 3 black boxes were all specially assembled time bombs. Chapter 472, You Are a Savior. Chu Xianglong's face was grim. He and the airport police had been searching around for clues about the time bombs when he received a report from his staff saying that Mr. Tang had already found 3 time bombs in the airport lounge, though he had just arrived. However, he didn't look happy at all, and looked even more solemn and grim instead. "Where is Mr. Tang Xiu?" Chu Xianglong immediately asked after arriving at the lounge. A police officer quickly answered, "Mr. Tang went to the B building, Chief Chu. Some of our colleagues from the station are with him." Without the slightest hesitation, Chu Xianglong dashed toward B building. He didn't worry about the 3 time bombs that had been found, since the bomb disposal experts had taken care of them. At the B building. At this time, Terminal B11 was void of people, deeply contrasting with the previous bustling scene half an hour ago. There were only a few special police and airport police officers searching for the bombs. Yet, there was still something that made Tang Xiu worried: the time bombs they had just found. The total number of time bombs is 5? After scouring the surroundings with his spiritual sense, Tang Xiu finally determined the specific location of the time bombs. At this time, however, there was only 1 minute and 20 seconds left before they detonated. "Leave this place immediately. Quickly." While rushing to the nearest time bomb's location, Tang Xiu shouted loudly and quickly after taking out the time bomb. "Who are you?" shouted a special police officer. "I'm Tang Xiu from the Ministry of State Security. Execute the order immediately and tell everyone to leave at once." That special police officer stared blankly, while the rest quickly ran toward the outside after hearing it. Despite being unsure whether Tang Xiu was really someone from the Ministry of State Security, they knew Tang Xiu's name and had received an order that they were to obey every command Tang Xiu issued once he arrived. The 4th one. Tang Xiu's heart was thumping fiercely. He only had 25 seconds left from the explosion time when he took the 4th bomb. The distance between him and the last time bomb was about 200 to 300 meters. If he sprinted to its location and took it away at the fastest speed he could exert, it would still be too late to throw them into a deserted place. "It's gonna explode." Tang Xiu sighed inwardly as he quickly turned around and dashed away. He quickly got to the airport and rushed from the opened window toward the runway. In a brightly lit spacious space, he circulated his star force to his feet and ran, almost flying, toward the center of the runway. There were only a few seconds left for the bombs to detonate when he threw the 4 time bombs to the distance. Boom. 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 The 5-time bombs exploded at the same time. Apart from the explosion inside the B building, the shockwave from the 4-time bombs on the runway hit Tang Xiu on the back, throwing him upside down. He rolled and heavily slammed on the concrete floor. Huff. Tang Xiu took a long, deep breath as the adrenaline receded. The power of the 4-time bombs exploding together made him look miserable. He was rather invulnerable with his cultivation level now, yet he'd be gravely injured if he were to be directly hit by 4-time bombs explosion. As he crawled up from the ground, Tang Xiu quickly returned to the building. He felt quite fortunate after seeing the local in which the time bomb had exploded. As a matter of fact, he had already prepared for the worst when he rushed from New World Center, that was that the airport would be blasted, but without too many people injured. And now, it seemed that there were no victims, though the explosion did really happen. He believed that Shanghai Airport was able to afford such a loss. Ta, ta, ta. The rapid sounds of footsteps passing through the corridor were heard from the distance. Tang Xiu looked around and saw a middle-aged man dressed in a suit and tie with the air of a high-level superior. He was running with dozens of police officers toward him. Were there any casualties? The hall was in a complete mess when Chu Xianglong arrived. There was only a person there, Tang Xiu, as he asked him loudly. No, everyone has already been evacuated, said Tang Xiu as he shook his head. The anxiety and restlessness inside Chu Xianglong's heart finally eased. He knew what would happen when the explosions happened, and the one thing he was most concerned about was casualties. Now after hearing Tang Xiu's answer, he finally nodded and asked, "Who are you? You shouldn't be someone from the police force or an airport staff, right?" "I am Tang Xiu," replied Tang Xiu in a deep voice. Startled inside, Chu Xianglong quickly moved forward to greet him, saying, "Hello, Mr. Tang. I have already received a call from Secretary Liu. Thank you for everything you've done for our airport." "No thanks needed," Tang Xiu shook his head. "Protecting the national security and the property of the state is the obligation of every citizen, to begin with. So let us leave out the ceremony." Right, I don't know who you are." Extending his hand, Chu Xianglong said, "I'm Chu Xianglong, the airport supervisor of Shanghai Airport, and also the person with the highest authority here. Anyway, Mr. Tang, I already know about your actions just now. And regardless of anything, I want to thank you since our Shanghai airport would have been in a big mess if it weren't for you. Like I said, please leave out the ceremony." Tang Xiu shook his head and faintly smiled. "It's very fortunate that those extremist terrorists only installed 8-time bombs. Or else, it would have been too late even if I were to race against time again." "Extremists?" Chu Xianglong's complexion changed. "Mr. Tang, I heard an explosion from the airport runway." "Did you?" "There were 4-time bombs on that side." "I found them and then threw them away there," Tang Xiu interrupted him. "If those 4-time bombs had exploded here, the building would have blown up. The airport probably has to repair some of the runways, though." "It was you?" Startled and shocked inwardly, intense gratitude filled Chu Xianglong's heart. He could hardly imagine how grave the consequences and losses would be if all 4-time bombs were to really explode here. "All right, my duty here has been accomplished," Tang Xiu waved his hand. "However, just in case, the personnel of your airport should scour the area again. Anyhow, I still have things I need to handle, I can't stay here any longer. Mr. Tang, can I bother you to help us with the searching again? I'm afraid that bomb attack was but only the first wave. After all, those were time bombs, while no one among our ranks knows who these extremists are. They could have placed some other time bombs somewhere else." Tang Xiu looked vacant, and immediately realized the truth in Chu Xianglong's request. After contemplating for a while, he nodded and said, "All right, then I will help you with searching the entire airport. Your people, however, need not follow me, since my tracking and investigation methods are different from yours." Chu Xianglong was perfectly aware that Tang Xiu must have special tracking methods, or else he wouldn't have been able to find so many time bombs. His methods were definitely not something an ordinary person could do. Please, do it. Half an hour later, Tang Xiu scoured the entire airport once again, and was finally sure that there were no more time bombs hidden in the airport. In the airport lounge, Lu Changqi had come rushing along with his men. He saw Chu Xianglong, who was looking grim and gloomy. "How is the situation, Chief Chu?" Evidently, Lu Changqi had known Chu Xianglong before, so he asked straightforwardly. Chu Xianglong forced a bitter smile and said, "A time bomb exploded inside B building, but there are no victims. Mr. Tang threw the 4 time bombs he found here on the runway, causing damage only to the runways but with no casualties. Also, there were still 3 more time bombs that were found first, and they're securely stored inside the enclosed special container by the bomb disposal specialists." Tang Xiu actually found 4 time bombs? He arrived in such a short time, yet he unexpectedly, Lu Changqi was shocked and commented. "Secretary Lu, Mr. Tang didn't find 4 time bombs. Instead, he found 6 bombs from a total of 8. He even found 1 or 2 of those 3 time bombs secured by those bomb disposal specialists in the waiting hall," said Chu Xianglong to interrupt Lu Changqi. There was admiration on his square face. Hiss. Despite knowing that Tang Xiu had special abilities, Lu Changqi was still shocked upon hearing that Tang Xiu was able to find 7 time bombs. "Mr. Tang is back." A police officer who was following Chu Xianglong suddenly spoke. In a flash, all eyes looked at the direction Tang Xiu was coming. Lu Changqi dashed toward Tang Xiu, took his hands out and said, "Tang Xiu, thank you. Thank you very much." "Please, don't stand on ceremony, Secretary Lu," said Tang Xiu with a smile. "No, Tang Xiu. This gratitude truly comes from my heart. If it weren't for you, perhaps an incident that would cause mass casualties would have happened in Shanghai tonight. All the time bombs and pushpins with the virus in the New World Center have been completely cleaned up by us. We even arrested Shibiao and another extremist as well. But if we didn't have you to inform us about the situation at the airport, I'm afraid a lot of tourists and the airport staff would have been killed under such a situation where nobody knew about the bombs. You are practically their savior." Savior? Tang Xiu nearly burst into laughter after hearing that. However, despite spending quite an effort and energy to the point of exhaustion, recalling the thousands of people he saved gave him a very good feeling. Letting out a smile, Tang Xiu said, "Secretary Lu, you're too serious, it's making me embarrassed. If anything, I've just investigated the entire airport again, and there shouldn't be any hidden dangers anymore. If there's nothing else, I'll bid my farewell first, since I still have some private matters to care of." "I'll call someone to send you off," said Lu Changqi quickly. "It won't be needed, thanks," Tang Xiu shook his head. "However, I'm kind of troubled since I violated some traffic regulations when I was rushing over. Also, I left my car halfway here, so I have to trouble Secretary Lu in solving them." Chapter 473, Obedient Children. After leaving Shanghai Airport, Tang Xiu took a taxi and returned to Blue Star Villa complex instead of going to Zhang Xinya's concert. "Boss." Banzhou was squatting near the entrance of Blue Star Villa complex. He had already smoked a few cigarettes while waiting. After seeing Tang Xiu getting off from a taxi, he hurriedly strode forward to greet him. Tang Xiu glanced at the commercial vehicle hanging around more than 10 meters away, as he nodded at him and said, "Are you bringing a few more?" "A total 5 of them, but they are a bit special," said Banzhou. "What is their situation?" asked Tang Xiu with a strange expression. "These 5 children are all 7 years old. A total of 3 girls and 2 boys. They were adopted before, but as the old man had contracted a cerebrovascular disease and then passed away, the 5 of them were driven away by that elderly's children, so they resorted to wandering and living in the streets." When our people found them, they were having a brawl with a group of children for 2 packs of instant noodles. Fighting over instant noodles? Tang Xiu knitted his brows.
Yeah.
They have been living in the streets for more than 4 months already, and are always unable to fill their bellies. Eventually, they met a boy a few days back who was being bullied by his schoolmates. The boy promised to give them 2 packs of instant noodles if they helped him teach his schoolmate bullies a lesson, said Banzhou. And the result? Asked Tang Xiu with a strange expression. Though they did win, they also failed to get their prize. Banzhou forced a wry smile. Also, the number of their opponents had more numbers. It was 5 against a dozen and they beat them. Are you sure that the 5 of them won against a dozen children? Asked Tang Xiu.
Yeah.
When I first saw them, they were currently brawling with that group of children. I have already asked them, and learned that those 5 were once adopted by an elderly, who then taught them some martial arts. I also learned the identity of that elderly, and know that he was a kind of grand master in martial arts. He lived in seclusion because of having his leg broken by his opponent when he got challenged to compare notes with others, a long time ago. Tang Xiu nodded. Let's go into the car and have a chat about it inside. All right. Banzhou replied, and followed Tang Xiu to the commercial vehicle. After opening the car's door, Tang Xiu straightly sat in the front seat. After Banzhou registered at the entrance gate, he drove the car into the interior of the villa complex. Tang Xiu, however, didn't look back, though he knew that the 5 children were sitting on the back of the commercial car. However, he was using his spiritual sense to observe them instead of his eyes. 2 boys and 3 girls. They were plainly dressed, and their looks were very common. The 5 were injured, though they were minor wounds and wouldn't cause anything serious. At the moment, they had their eyes fixated on him, and looked a bit curious, as well as vigilant. Relax, I'm not a trafficker. Tang Xiu finally turned his head to have them after the commercial vehicle was parked in the villa's courtyard. He let out a light smile after speaking, and then got off. Following that, he led them into the villa's living room and said, "The 5 of you, just take this place as your own home for the time being. You're free to look at anything." After saying that, he looked at Banzhou, pointed to the opposite sofa and smilingly said, "You have been incessantly looking for street children recently. Tell me about what you feel about this." "Boss, I really don't want to talk much, though you have us doing a very meaningful job. I've seen too many things, and I know too much, yet every time I look at these orphans and street children, to be honest, I feel somewhat sad inside. We are much more fortunate and have a happier life than these children. Recalling the time when I was a trivial street thug, I feel like living this way seemed to have meaning, and it's very worth it. Doing what you like, and doing what you feel meaningful just proves that you are happy now," Tang Xiu smilingly said. "Since you like this job, then do it well. What I'm asking of you is not quantity, but quality. Of course, you can also think of ways to take care of those unqualified street children. For instance, sending them to an orphanage, or to the local police, letting them find a solution for them. As for your present performance, I'm very satisfied, and I hope you can persist in your efforts, too. I promise I'll get the job done well, boss," said Banzhou seriously. "All right, tell me about these 5. Tang Xiu nodded. "I've investigated these 5. Little E and Little are twin brothers. They were still babies when that elderly found them while doing a morning jog on the riverside. The other 3 were also abandoned and sent to an orphanage in the local area. Eventually, the orphanage was closed down, and the issue for the placement of the children there was left unsolved. Though the caretaker of the orphanage tried to find homes for all of them, these 3 were eventually left behind. The elderly who lived near the orphanage heard about this, and finally adopted these 3. So, in other words, you can't find their family members, yes?" asked Tang Xiu. Banzhou forced a smile and answered, "We were unable to find them." "Then, you don't need to keep searching," said Tang Xiu. Anyways, as for the five of you, I want to ask you something. Would you like to be adopted by me? Of course, I'll provide you with all the necessities of life, as well as teaching you martial arts, so that you can become skillful persons in the future, said Tang Xiu. The five children didn't run around when Tang Xiu was conversing with Banzhou. It was because the place was very luxurious, so they were standing nearby, keeping their vigilance and curiosity at the same time. Upon hearing Tang Xiu's words, they walked toward Tang Xiu, and the tallest one of them, a girl, then asked, "What exactly are you going to do with us?" "What a smart child you are," Tang Xiu smilingly said. "You're evidently much more mature than your peers. Anyhow, it's fine telling you now. So to say, I'm going to let you stay here for the time being. After you have lived here for a period of time, a few more homeless children will also be sent to this place later, and I'll send you to Jingmen Island then. You all will live there for a few years, and I'll take you to my home should you show outstanding performance." "Going home? Where is that?" asked the girl curiously. "It's my home. My home in the truest sense. Likewise, if you study hard, practice martial arts seriously, and then get my approval, I will take you to my home, and it will be your home as well," said Tang Xiu. "You're telling us that you want us to continue practicing martial arts? Are you a martial artist or something?" asked the girl again. "I am. And I'm a very powerful one as well," said Tang Xiu with a nod. The girl turned her head and talked to the other four in whispers. Finally, she looked up at Tang Xiu and asked, "There is the last question we have for you. Why did you adopt so many orphans and homeless children? Those like us?" The smile on Tang Xiu's face turned thicker as he answered, "Though you are still young, I have some words I believe you'll understand. The more people you have, the more powerful you are. If tons of orphans and street children are gathered, studying and practicing martial arts together, in the future, when all of you have grown up, and in the case that anyone dares to bully our family members, there will be many people who will fight together with us against those bullies. So now, are you satisfied with my explanation?"
Yeah.
The tallest girl nodded and answered seriously after the five children whispered to each other. "All right, then. Tell me your name," said Tang Xiu smilingly. "My name is Little E. They are Little Lon and Little Qing. As for them, they are called Little E and Little," said the tallest girl. "Don't you have a family name?" asked Tang Xiu curiously. "No, Grandpa didn't tell us what our family name was," said the girl with an honest expression. Tang Xiu was silent for a short while, before slowly saying, "Then you will have Tang as your family name later. As for your own name, I think that I have to change your name as well, and I'll bestow it on you now." "What name will we have, then?" asked the girl. "I'll bestow you a name in accordance to the 5 elements, metal, Jing, wood, mu, water, shui, fire, hui, and earth, too. You will be called Tang Xiao Jin. As for them, they're respectively, Tang Xiaomu, Tang Xiao Shui, Tang Xiaohua, and Tang Xiaotu. How does it sound?" The 5 children gathered and talked to each other yet again for a while, and finally decided to accept their new names. A smile finally appeared on their faces. A few minutes later, Banzhou left and drove away. Tang Xiu then took Tang Xiaojin's group of 5 to tour the villa while telling them things they needed to know. Finally, after they returned to the hall on the 1st floor, he said, "You will stay on the 1st floor. Xiao Jin will have a room for herself, whereas Xiaomu, Xiao Shui, Xiaohua, and Xiaotu will stay in one room together. Tomorrow I will take you to buy some clothes, shoes, and some basic, simple textbooks. I will also hire teachers to teach how to read and write. As for your meals, you don't have to worry about it. I will also hire housekeepers to take care of your daily life. Also..." Ring, ring, ring. Tang Xiu's mobile phone rang and interrupted his following words. Taking out his mobile phone, Tang Xiu saw on the screen that the caller was unexpectedly Li Lao's Han. He immediately pressed the answer button and smilingly said, "Hey, old brotherly, how come you remember to call me?" "Tang brother, I just arrived in Shanghai. Are you free now?" Li Laoshan's hearty laughter came from the mobile phone. Hesitating for a moment, Tang Xiu then smilingly said, "It would have been fine if it was some other time, old brotherly. But I have a minor matter to deal with at the moment, and I'm afraid I can't go out now. How about you just come straight to my place?" "Me coming to your place now?" asked Li Laoshan, surprised. "Won't I disturb your family members coming this late?" "Surely no." Tang Xiu laughed. "All right, then. Tell me your address and I'll come over there now," Li Laoshan smilingly said. "Anyhow, do you want me to bring some dishes, wine, or something? I just arrived in Shanghai and settled at the hotel, so I'm kinda starving here." "No need, thanks," Tang Xiu laughed. "It's fine if you just come here." After hanging up the phone, Tang Xiu texted his address to Li Laoshan. Then, he looked at 5 children and said, "You need not worry about your daily life later, and I only have one request for you." "What request is it?" asked Tang Xiaojin curiously. "Obey all my orders," said Tang Xiu. "If I tell you to go east, you must never go to the west. If I order you to stand, then sit must you not. Shortly put, my command is above everything else, got it?" "Understood." The 5 children, Jin, Mu, Shui, Wei, and Tu, nodded repeatedly. Obedience. It was exactly their strong point. This was the education taught to them after getting adopted by their grandpa, which was to heed what the elderly said. Chapter 474, Dragon Soul. The addition of 5 kids in his home didn't trouble Tang Xiu, for he, after all, had experience in raising children. Hence, he instructed them to take baths in turn, then he went to find 5 sets of clothes he didn't wear anymore for them to wear. Though they looked like they were wearing robes, at least they didn't need to wear dirty clothes again. "Have you eaten yet?" Looking at the 5 little guys sitting in the hall, Tang Xiu asked with a smile. "No, not yet," Tang Xiaoji shook her head and answered. Letting out a faint smile, Tang Xiu dialed Qinan's cell number and asked her to send something for them to eat. The food had yet to arrive when Li Laoshan came after him. "I'm not disturbing you for coming this late, am I, brother Tang?" The large-bellied Li Laoshan's plump face was beaming with a smile. He entered the villa's hall along with the beautiful female secretary, who followed him, whereas the 4 bodyguards were waiting in the courtyard. "It's okay," Tang Xiu laughed. "Anyhow, I should have taken old brotherly to a welcoming dinner since you're the one coming to Shanghai. However, I was quite busy looking after these 5 kids and didn't felt at ease leaving them alone at home. I can only apologize for making you come here personally." Li Laoshan's eyes landed on the 5 kids. There was a strange expression on his face as he spoke. They are children I adopted." "Kids, why are you dawdling and not greeting the guest?" Tang Xiu laughed. "Hello, uncle. How do you do?" Tang Xiaojin's group of 5 hurriedly called out. "Hello, and how do you do, too, kids?" Li Weishan nodded at them and replied. Having said that, he shifted his vision toward Tang Xiu and gave him a thumbs up, praising, "You're amazing, brother Tang. You are willing to adopt these children despite being so young yourself. Little Jean, you all can get back to your respective rooms now. I'll call you again after the food have arrived." "All right, old brother Li, please come in and have a seat." After exchanging polite remarks, Tang Xiu let out a smile and said, "Old brother Li, what is your purpose in coming to Shanghai this time?" "I came to see you," said Li Laoshan. "I never thought that my face was really that big. To think it would be worthy enough for old brother Li to come see me personally. So, what's the reason you came looking for me?" "Brother Tang, being too smart is kinda hard on your friends, don't you think? Anyhow, I do really came looking for you for a matter, and it's kind of very important, too." Gesturing from him to go on, Tang Xiu smiled but kept quiet. The reason I came over this time is mainly because I want to ask some assistance from you, Brother Tang. I was doing some business back in Beijing, and eventually I encountered some problems as of lately. The other party is also the owner of a construction materials business. He contacted some people and siphoned a large number of my steel products. Hence, I want to ask Brother Tang to accompany me there. That shouldn't be the main problem, right? Can you elaborate? Asked Tang Xiu after pondering for a short while. Giving him another thumbs up, Li Laozhan praised, "You're smart, Tang brother. I wouldn't have troubled you if the problem was a small matter. But the other party is an obsessed man with antique goods, and has been persistently wanting to buy the Yuchong sword in my hands. You must know, I spent a lot of effort to secure this Yuchong sword, so it's only natural that I'd never want to sell it. However, he eventually made a bet with me that he has a better ancient sword in his possession, forcing me to bring out my Yuchong sword and participate in an underground auction in Beijing. I have to auction my Yuchong sword, whereas he will auction his ancient sword as well. Then, both of us will compete at the auction for the two antique swords, and whoever bids the highest will win both of them." "There is an underground auction in Beijing?" asked Tang Xiu.
Yeah.
It's an underground auction secretly run by the Sita family, the intermediary family of the Bazaar sect. It is said that this underground auction has existed since the Qin dynasty era. It has never been stopped running, not in the period of the Republic of China nor the wartime. So far, it seems that 180 auctions have already been held, and there have always been a large number of antiques auctioned in each event. I heard that even the Emperor Qin's imperial jade seal is also one of the auctioned items this time. You also heard about the Emperor Qin's imperial jade seal, haven't you, Brother Tang? No, I haven't heard of it, Tang Xiu shook his head. What is it, exactly? Li Laozhan answered in a mysterious tone, of course it is an imperial seal, the symbol of power and authority during the Qin dynasty. Nodding in response, Tang Xiu said with a smile, however, I still don't understand something, old brother Li. In what kind of problem do you want me to help you in, exactly? If it was about money, I'm afraid I can't be of much help, I'm not as rich as you. It's not about money. It's an issue about my own safety. I learned the nature of this auction house when I first participated in one 15 years ago. The event is fraught with dangers for the buyers who bid and buy extremely precious antiques, they are very likely to be targeted. You are very powerful yourself and your men are also powerful experts. If I have you with me I'm sure I'll be safe. Tang Xiu understood in a flash, and then said with a smile, can you tell me the specific time the auction will be held? On October 7th, said Li Laozhan. Thinking for a while, Tang Xiu then nodded, to be honest, I'm also very interested in this kind of underground auction. All right, then. I'll go with you when the time comes. Upon hearing his promise, Li Laozhan was immediately overjoyed, as he beckoned to the beautiful female secretary. Afterward, from the briefcase in the female secretary hands, he took a sophisticatedly made box and handed it over to Tang Xiu. What is this? Asked Tang Xiu after receiving the box. There was a strange look on his face. It's something this old bro of yours had gotten some time ago, Li Laozhan laughed. It's a genuine dragon-shaped jade ornament formed by nature. It's a gift from me as a token of my gratitude. Thanks a lot. Tang Xiu faintly smiled and gently opened the lid. When his eyes fell on the jade ornament, a dazzling red light suddenly appeared, causing his pupils to contract in an instant and causing him to abruptly get up. What's wrong, Brother Tang? Startled, Li Laozhan asked. Didn't you see it just now? Asked Tang Xiu after he turned his head to look at Li Laozhan. See what, exactly? Asked Li Laozhan, confused as well as doubtful. Tang Xiu didn't answer, but instead fixated his vision on the crystal-clear jadeite that had a red dragon-shaped pattern inside. His heartbeat beat faster than usual, and a glint of disbelief flashed in his eyes. It's a dragon soul. There was unexpectedly a dragon soul sealed within this jade ornament. Tang Xiu released his spiritual sense, seeped it into the jade. Much to his surprise and astonishment, there was a spatial space within the jade ornament, with a soul of a 9-clawed crimson dragon constantly wandering in it. If it was just a common dragon soul of the dragon race, Tang Xiu wouldn't have been this shocked. But a 9-clawed crimson dragon was extremely scarce even in the immortal world. More importantly, a young 9-clawed crimson dragon was able to defeat an adult 5-clawed golden dragon. In terms of preciousness and formidableness, a 9-clawed crimson dragon would definitely be ranked in the top 3 if there was a ranking list in the dragon clan. Dragons were one of the most formidable races in the immortal world. Even after becoming a supreme, who possessed great influence and power in the immortal world, he dared not to provoke this race easily. Who did this? To think that the person who did this possessed such a great magical ability, and was able to capture an adult 9-clawed crimson dragon. Why did he extract its dragon soul and seal it here? Nonetheless, it's really quite fortunate. The cutting process when this jade was being carved didn't touch the space inside the jade. Otherwise, it would have led to the destruction of the internal space, along with the dragon soul inside it. Secretly rejoicing inside, the way Tang Xiu looked at Li Laohan became different from before. After staying in silent for a short while, he slowly said, "Old brother Li, give me 2 years. I'll give you a big chance in 2 years. To be exact, it'll be a great fortune." A big opportunity? A great fortune? What are you talking about? Asked Li Laohan, surprised. I can't tell you, yet. But you will naturally understand in 2 years. I'll accept this jade ornament, and 2 years later, just consider it as me paying this favor, said Tang Xiu. Speaking so seriously like that kinda makes me awkward, brother Tang. Li Laohan waved his hand and smiled. If anything, for you to accompany me to Beijing is as good as paying this favor already. To be honest, I was afraid that this gift of mine would be too unworthy, that you wouldn't be satisfied with it. I must tell you, this jade ornament is very important to me, said Tang Xiu. It was true. This object was very important. As of now, Tang Xiu was already in a bottleneck in his cultivation progress. Furthermore, it would be more difficult for his cultivation to progress in the future as well. Since he had the soul of a 9-clawed crimson dragon, however, it would become a different story, since once his cultivation broke through the final layer of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, that was, after he reached the 9th layer of the 9 cores phase forming, devouring this dragon soul at that time would definitely help him leap over the first level, and then directly step into the second level. Tang Xiu had thoroughly analyzed and studied the heavenly art of cosmic genesis and knew that once he broke through to the second level, it was equivalent to a common cultivator stepping into the immortal realm. Some cultivators were unable to break through the final bottleneck during their lifetime, unable to become an immortal. Others spend countless years in hard work, untold hardships, and dangers before they finally ascend and become immortals. As for him, if he devoured the 9-clawed crimson dragon at that time, not only would it make him step into the immortal realm, he would even have the opportunity to condense an immortal soul. Once his immortal soul fused with this dragon soul, he was certain that he would be able to cultivate magical powers and secret arts belonging to the dragon race. Dragons were full of treasures from their head to their tails. And they were spiritually and physically powerful. Tang Xiu was certain that the constitution and formidableness of his physique would be more powerful than that of immortals. After he devoured this dragon soul, even the demon race in the demon world would pale in comparison to him. Looking at Tang Xiu, who had fallen into his own thoughts, Li Laohan curiously asked, "Well, brother Tang, isn't this just a piece of jade? Is it even worth saying such exaggerated words? Brother Li, this object may have not much benefit to you. But it's very important to me. Have you ever heard the words condensing the spirit to shake off the soul?" Tang Xiu shook his head and answered. "Nope, never heard of it," answered Li Laohan as he shook his head. Tang Xiu let out a smile and did an elaborate, As he stuffed the jade ornament into his pocket, he secretly took it into his interspatial ring. Then, he said with a smile, "Let us just forget about it, then. I'll explain it to you later if an opportunity arises. Anyhow, the dishes and the wine should be arriving soon, so us brothers must have a few cups." "Got no problem with that." Li Laoshan laughed. "It's joyous event to drink and dine with you, Brother Tang." "All right, then. How about elaborating the issue with your steel products?" asked Tang Shou smilingly. "I honestly don't get it why he would take your steel products. You know, the other party has quite a powerful influence in Beijing. He took my steel products and it was justified by law, so some officials from the government must have been invited by him. That man, however, has said that as long as I take my Yuchong sword and auction it in that event he would give back my goods, regardless of the outcome. He wouldn't even obstruct my business in Shanghai again in the future, and would even lend me a hand instead." "That said, the other party is not an enemy, it seems," commented Tang Shou. "He indeed can't be said to be an enemy, yet I dislike him for being an expert schemer. In the future, if you were to come into contact and have dealings with him, you had better have as little contact as possible with him if you can." Chapter 475, Major Suspicion Points. At Shanghai New World Center, the concert scene seethed with excitement. Yet Zhang Xinya was feeling restless inwardly despite showing an energetic and spirited performance on the stage. Not once did she feel relaxed inside. Even though the Ministry of State Security had sent its person in charge to inform her that the crisis had been averted, she didn't receive any reply from Tang Shou whatsoever, and was feeling somewhat restless inside. However, there was another person who was more disturbed and restless than her. That person was Li Chongqi, who just returned from Shanghai airport. The reason for his restlessness was because they had only found and killed a total of 2 extremists, and were in the dark about the traces of the rest. "Chief Liu, the surveillance department has found a peculiar situation." A technician from the Ministry of State Security rushed toward Liu Chongqi and reported in a low voice. "What peculiar situation?" asked Liu Chongqi in a heavy voice. His complexion changed. "Please come with me." Immediately afterward, a few people rushed to the temporary monitoring center set up behind the backstage. After entering the room, Li Chengxi's eyes quickly swept across a row of LCD monitors. "Chief Liu, these are the monitoring screens we have installed to keep an eye on the 4 entrances to the New World Center. Take a look." The technician played the monitoring footage, and set the playing speed a few times slower. On that screen was the scene of 2 women from the Everlasting Feast Hall who were holding a man, and quietly moved to the back of the 4 queuing lines. "Who are these women?" asked Liu Chongqi after watching the surveillance video. His expression was solemn. "I don't know, Chief," the technician shook his head. "They were all wearing duckbill caps and sunglasses. They even seemed to know where we installed the surveillance cameras, for they always had their faces away from them. As a matter of fact, we had checked the 4 people taken away by them and sent their facial characteristics to the state's database. Our comrades there are currently searching information about them. I'm sure they will soon be able to ascertain their identities." Liu Chengxi frowned. There was a thoughtful look in his eyes. After rewinding and replaying the videos several times, a fax message arrived. "Is this the information about them?" Liu Chengxi slowly and carefully read it, and was somewhat startled inside. Chen Bin once worked as a blasting expert in a mining area in Xicheng. Later on, after he got involved in a fighting incident, he then resigned and left. He reappeared after having disappeared for 3.5 years, and those who once fought with him either died in a traffic accident, or got burnt in a fire. At present, he is managing. Jiang Liu, a member of an underground gang in Northeast, was once sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment for murder. His sentence ended 5 years ago and was released. There had been no reports about him since, and his whereabouts during those 5 years cannot be investigated. Jia Xiaocheng, an orthopedist and a surgeon at the 4th Public Hospital of Ruijiang City, A man with a solitary and eccentric personality, and not good at dealing with people. He got allegedly accused of malpractice in a surgery incident 4 years ago and was detained. He was then fired from his job and became unemployed afterward. Lu Changxi carefully read the information and then turned to look at the technician and asked in a deep voice, "This information only reported 3 people. What about the 4th person?" There was nothing about him. The technician forced a wry smile. "We've compared and checked his face in the data bank. There is no information about him, it's like he came out of nowhere." Lu Changxi contemplated for a short while and said immediately, "Contact the transportation department. Tell them to send me all the surveillance videos within a radius of 5 kilometers around New World Center as fast as possible." Affirmative. Time fleeted by. Zhang Xinya's concert finally came to an end after 3 hours. At this time, the transportation department finally transmitted dozens of surveillance videos. Knock, knock, knock. The door was knocked. Zhang Xinya came in with her 2 assistants. She didn't even spare time to remove her makeup and change her clothes. When she was invited to enter the surveillance room, she hurriedly asked, "How is the situation? Have you found the criminals?" "We have already shot and killed 2 people and are now investigating the identity and whereabouts of the rest. Also, though the concert has ended, tens of thousands fans are still leaving. Our people outside are currently managing them to leave the site in an orderly manner. Only after they have left completely will we truly be able to relax." "What about Tang Xiu? Wasn't he cooperating with you in looking for the whereabouts of those criminals?" asked Zhang Xinya. "I don't know where he is for the time being." Lu Changxi shook his head. "He helped solve the situation at the Shanghai airport, and then left immediately." "Aren't you his friend? Why don't you call him and ask about it?" "Shanghai airport? What is the situation at Shanghai airport? Could it be there?" Confused, Zhang Xinya asked.
Yeah.
"Those extremists are truly lunatics." Shanghai airport was also, Lu Changxi nodded. "Ah, forget it. Let us not discuss it." In short, had it not been for Tang Xiu, a big mess would have happened. He has practically saved the lives of tens of thousands of people tonight. Saving tens of thousands of people? Zhang Xinya only felt a chill down her spine instead of feeling joyful. She could hardly imagine how insane and lunatic those extremists were, to think that they unexpectedly had gone so far as to bring so much harm and damage to society. "Give me a cell phone," asked Zhang Xinya to the assistant, who came with her. She called Tang Xiu and learned that he had returned to Blue Star Villa complex earlier. She immediately told him that she would pass by and see him later. "Miss Zhang, let's go together. I have some things I need to discuss with Tang Xiu," said Lu Changxi. Hesitating for a moment, Zhang Xinya then nodded and said, "All right. I'll go and have my makeup removed first. I'll see you at the east entrance later." Outside the concert venue, a group of students from Shanghai University gathered up. Each and every one of them looked excited, thinking that tonight was really fun and joyous. Zhang Xinya's concert was very successful, as unceasing cheers and applause happened throughout the concert. The wonderful voice of Zhang Xinya had bought them a grand musical feast. "She's truly worthy as my goddess. Zhang Xinya's singing voice is simply the best, the most pleasant to hear all over the world. I must work hard, make a fortune, and rise to the top of the world in the future, then I must marry the goddess in my heart." Zhao Liang gripped his fists, a firm determined and longing look on his face. "Stop." Dozens of middle fingers were raised at him simultaneously. Cough, cough. Coughing a few times, Zhao Liang raised his hands and embarrassedly smiled. "I was just joking, guys. Don't take it so seriously. Anyways, the moon sure is round tonight." Was the moon truly round tonight? The crowd looked up and saw the night sky. Following which, they turned their heads back at him and rolled their eyes. The weather tonight was rather cloudy and dark. What moon could there be up there? The smile on Yukai's face receded, as he mumbled to himself, Tang eldest bro, always keep his word. He said he would come see Zhang Xingya's concert tonight, yet how come I haven't seen him at all until now? Could something have delayed him? Hu Qingsong looked vacant for a while, as he nodded and said,
Yeah.
You're right. Tang big bro, always lives up to his word. He didn't show up from the beginning we came to our seats to the end of the show. I'm afraid something happened to him. Why don't we give him a call? All right. Yukai replied and straightly took out his mobile to dial Tang Xiu's cell number. After asking, he then hung up the phone, turning to look at everyone, he said, there was indeed something that delayed Tang eldest bro. He's in Blue Star Villa complex now. Since the dorms in our campus are already locked now, how about we go to his place and spend the night there? There are so many of us, man. I know there are many rooms in Tang Big Bro's house, but is it convenient for all of us to spend the night there? Yukai paused. After a short while of hesitation, he said, it should be all right. There are 12 of us from 3 dorms. Having 2 us staying in one room should be fine, I think. Let us first go to eldest bro, Tang's place. If we really can't stay after getting there, we'll just look for a hotel nearby. Okay, let's go, Hu Qingsong nodded. They quickly rushed toward Blue Star Villa complex. In the surveillance room behind the backstage of the New World Center, Lu Changxi and a dozen members of the Ministry of State Security watched dozens of surveillance footages. What made them dumbfounded was that they were unable to find the 4 men who were captured by those women. Those 8 women seemed to have disappeared, and there was no sign of them leaving whatsoever. What was most inconceivable for them, the Ministry of State Security and the police force, was that they were still unable to find the slightest clue or trace at all, although they had conducted a thorough search in the vicinity. Chief Lu, take a look at these 2. Their actions are very suspicious, and the surveillance cameras never captured their faces at all. There has been no sign of them leaving, just like those 8 mysterious women, said an investigation member of the Ministry of State Security while pointing at the back of 2 figures on the screen. Lu Changxi carefully watched the video for more than 10 seconds. Then, he forced a bitter smile and said, who exactly are these people? They seem to know about the cameras in the surroundings, and they were clearly avoiding the surveillance cameras. If my hunch is right, those 4 men captured by them should be the extremists. However, aside from our Ministry of State Security people and the police force, there should be no one else who knows about this operation. Suddenly, his words came to a halt, as a young handsome face appeared inside his mind. Tang Xiu? Could it be that he? Lu Changxi quickly grabbed his overcoat and shouted in a deep voice, come with me to Blue Star Villa complex. The rest is to deal with the aftermath. At Blue Star Villa complex, Tang Xiu, Li Laozhan, as well as his female secretary were sitting in front of the dinner table full of delicious dishes. The 5 children, who were not used to eat such a rich meal, each and every one of them was wolfing it down and had their mouths full. Ding dong. The villa's bell sounded. Tang Xiu directly took out the key and pressed the button on it. There was a confused expression on his face as he got up and said, it's late, who could it be? You're a really busy man, Brother Tang, said Li Laozhan smilingly. Go see the guests and entertain them. No need to mind me, we'll leave after filling our bellies. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile. Just after he entered the villa's hall, he saw 3 cars quickly approaching, as a group of people then got off after the cars were parked. Tang Big Bro, you're really at home. Hu Qingsong shouted with a rough voice. Something happened here at home, so I hurried back. Did you see the concert to the end? Asked Tang Xiu smilingly.
Yeah.
Anyways, you keep your words when you say them, and when you didn't keep your promise tonight, we were afraid something happened to you and came here in a hurry, buddy. Huh? What a great smell. Are you by chance having a meal right now? Said Hu Song. A friend came visiting. Come inside. Tang Xiu laughed.